What's poppin', everyone? Tara Lynch here with the next big thing, the videocast sharing all things infotainment. Dear Diary, it's week 13 with no sports. Well, never fear, because ESPN SportsCenter and college football host Kevin Negandhi joins us to discuss how ESPN reported during the COVID-19 pandemic. You know what to do. Let's jump right in. Civil unrest continues in this country for the second week in a row as protesters try to make their voices heard. Now, these protests look to deconstruct a systematic problem that has existed in the United States for centuries. As the country mourns the death of George Floyd, some cities are taking action banning the use of chokeholds by police. This is a rare bipartisan effort, as both sides of the aisle generally agree that police reform is necessary to respond to these protests. Lawmakers are looking to create a system in which they can find the best officers for duty and also make it easier to remove unfit officers from the job. On social media, many movements have sparked international and national reflection and conversation to better understand. I encourage all of you to keep learning, keep a dialogue going, and remain engaged. Switching gears, the COVID-19 pandemic has eliminated a key element of American culture: sports. Now, some leagues are already making their way back, but we're still waiting to hear exactly what the plans are for the NBA and NHL, which are planning to come back this summer, the MLB, which hasn't made an announcement yet, and the NFL, whose season is supposed to start in September. Now, some sports are already back, including NASCAR, which might be allowing fans into their racetracks for the first time since March, starting as early as this weekend. The PGA coming back this weekend as well. And a German soccer league, the Bundesliga, has been back for a couple of weeks now. But one key question here is, how did sports anchors report when there were no sports? Well, I'm very excited to welcome in ESPN SportsCenter and college football Wraps host Kevin Negandhi. Kevin, thank you so much for joining me today on The Next Big Thing.
Tara, it's my pleasure to be with you. I hope your family is safe and healthy.
Same to you as well. You know, Kevin, you and I go way back, so it's really weird to be on this side talking to you and interviewing you, I have to say.
Well, you know what? It was only a matter of time that you were going to get the chance to interview everybody. So I'm glad that I'm part of it to share this experience with you.
So let's just jump right in. So you have been anchoring, the college football season is happening in the fall, so we won't focus on that part of your responsibilities, but you are the evening SportsCenter anchor along with Sage Steele. So you've been having to do that without, one key element of the title, sports. So how has, as COVID-19 broke across this country, how have you, had to adjust on the fly without, sports happening in this country?
Well, that's a credit to our content producers, our coordinating producer, Greg Dowling, our segment producers, as well as our producer on a daily basis, David Rose. What we try to do is, in that, and we're on for now 2 hours, like last night or 2 nights ago was 3 hours. Last Friday was 3 hours, but it makes it more challenging. In between those blocks, we also have a PTI segment, which helps to see Tony and Mike for about 20 minutes, where they're doing a lot of topics. But, what we're doing is we're trying to find out what's next, in every single sport. Have we made any progress with Major League Baseball and their negotiations? The NFL and training camps returning in July, and what are the protocols, and what's the latest in college football as teams now have voluntary workouts and players are coming back starting on June 1st. And in between that, what's the update in the NBA and the MLS and the return of the NHL? So we're every single day we still have that content. I got to tell you, in March, when we were in the middle of this, NFL free agency carried us, right? And Tom Brady carried us. That led into, the draft. And then you've got Gronk around and Gronk deciding. So you find those moments that carry us through where we have content. It has been a challenge. I can tell you that the happiest points on the air are when we can go back and give you a top 10 highlight. especially, some of the greatest moments through the history of, yesterday we're celebrating the top 10 playoff moments in NBA history. When you could do that, or when we did a little breakdown of Mahomes versus Lamar Jackson coming up in September, when you can still do that core thing where we're talking about sports, that helps.
We're getting closer and closer to those live events, and NASCAR saying they might allow fans back, some fans, as soon as this weekend. So there are things happening in terms of live events, and of course, you mentioned athletes sharing their voices, and the NFL players video is particularly powerful. So if you haven't seen that, go check it out. Athletes are really be on the forefront of a lot of the different movements happening in this country. But I want to take you back to March. When this all happened in the middle of March, the NBA shut down, the game was canceled right before tip. How long did you think sports would be gone for?
Wow. I thought that it would take maybe about a month to 6 weeks. I'm very lucky that, my wife is in the medical profession, so she was giving me a heads up for anticipation on, when we could see spikes in April. And she was right. The doctors that she talked to, the guys that, and the ladies that have the information, the experts, were giving her a heads up on things. So it allowed me to kind of anticipate. So I thought that, by the end of May, we would find our way figuring things out. And it felt like that we're kind of at that point, right? Because once June started, it was like, okay, the dust is settled. There is still major concern on the virus coming back, but when we shut things down, the one thing that stood out was Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner, the night he shut it down. I think everybody followed suit because he understood, I think, the magnitude of this, of Rudy Gobert testing positive, and that we need to figure this out first before we move forward. And if we do have to shut down again, we don't want to anticipate it's going to be longer than what we've experienced already the first time.
You definitely don't want to extend this farther or have to shut down again. Very good points there. Now, you mentioned that you are kind of doing, some history lessons on SportsCenter, talking about things that happened, a couple of years ago, or very big sports moments that we can all reflect on, or also talking about some of the current news cycle things that are happening, including the civil unrest in the country and the pandemic. But how are you planning to transition and prepare yourself to go back to normal, or what was normal before, when live sports come back?
Honestly, Tara, I don't think it's going to be normal. I don't think the next 12 to 18 months will be normal anywhere. So I've said this multiple times on SportsCenter that in outside the box times, we need to be prepared that nothing's ever going to be normal. And if you could prepare that way, I think you're going to be better to adapt to the situation. So when outside the box times come, we have to have outside the box remedies or solutions or possibilities or ideas, right? So I don't think it's going to be normal. I will tell you one thing, that if we are moving down this line and tracking to have everything return, I think September is going to be absolutely crazy. When you look at the schedule of potentially all the games that are going on with all the sports all converging at one, it's going to be non-stop. And honestly, I'm really excited about it because we've never experienced, I think, a September and an October like we are going to go through with college football and the NFL joining the ranks of, the NHL in full swing, the NBA in full swing. The idea of getting golf back on with a major, and then who knows where we're at with Major League Baseball, right? And then where are we going to be with NASCAR? And so to me, I got to tell you, I'm actually really excited about the way we're trending into September. I'm hopeful because that's kind of how I look at things, but I'm also prepared that there will be setbacks, and that we got to be prepared mentally for the next year to 18 months that it's not going to be normal.
Sports overload after a sports detox. So we'll have to see how everyone reacts to that. But one final question here. You mentioned it. You have to be prepared for out-of-the-box situations, and for young people, students, aspiring sports broadcasters like myself, or people who are just graduated in May or graduated without a ceremony. How should they prepare, and what is your best advice for them as they enter this job market that's crazy with sports that are fluctuating daily?
My first bit of advice would be prepared to hear the word no a lot, but that's okay. In normal times, you're going to hear no a lot. Don't take anything personal. Make sure that you've established relationships with people. So, for example, if somebody says, "Hey, I don't have an opportunity right now," you don't know if that opportunity potentially 6 months from now could happen. So I would continue to make sure you have established relationships with news directors if you're getting into the TV side or potentially the radio side. So down the road, that if that person knows somebody, to make a phone call for you and you're prepared. I would be mentally prepared to do anything, to go anywhere and work the weekends and the holidays for the next 2 years, to show your value, to show your worth, to make sure you are available, because you're not going to get opportunity if you're not available. So for me, my recommendation is it is extremely tough in this business right now. It's going to be very tough. That's just the reality. I wish I could make the rules, but I can't. But when I got in the business, I got rejected by 50 news directors. And I thought I had a very strong tape. And I've always told kids that, or college graduates, all you need is one person. You need one person to believe in you. And after 6 months of hearing no, and there were a couple leads that I got. I finally got a yes, and I took advantage of it. So for me, it worked out. But telling that 22, 23-year-old person who's frustrated and doesn't understand, it's nothing personal. It's never going to be anything personal. It's just the situation that, this industry's in right now. And being fully aware that if you're available, the opportunity will also find you. So I would make sure you continue your relationships with news directors. And, to a point where if somebody says no to you but says, "I really like your tape, give me a call back in maybe 6 weeks." Make sure you write that down. Make sure you do a follow-up a couple weeks later, and then make sure you follow up 6 weeks later, right? Or also ask them, "Hey," or her, "Hey, do you know any potential opportunities down the road with other stations or people that you know? Please, I would love if you could share my contact information, or can you give me that lead?" Because getting that job turns into a job. Don't think that this is like one of those, "Hey, I tried for an hour for today, I'm done." I would suggest that, while you're looking for that job, every day, put in 4 to 5 to 6 hours as if it's your own job to get a job. And what you're going to find out is that you're going to hear a lot of no. You're going to test yourself a lot, but it gives you the ability to build relationships and a network down the road that may reward you.
Your quick thoughts. How's the city of Philadelphia, their sports team, shaping up?
Wow, I'm excited about the Sixers, as you can see behind me. I'm excited about the Flyers, as you can see behind me. I just want baseball with this Phillies team, and I want to see Bryce Harper and Andrew McCutchen and Rhys Hoskins in year number 2 together. That Eagles team, I'm really excited. As long as they stay healthy and they have some weapons for Carson Wentz. We're going to miss Malcolm Jenkins, but the speed that the Eagles have will play a huge role in how this plays out. I think the NFC East is going to be a huge battle, as usual, between the Eagles and the Cowboys, at least this year. I'm excited about it, and it's nice to actually break down and talk a little bit about sports right now.
For those of you who don't know, Kevin is from the Philadelphia area, so if you ever get to meet him, he will definitely talk your ear off about Philadelphia sports. So you will get your download. He's got the pennants behind him, so he's all ready, right, Kevin?
I sure am. I've got my Temple stuff there, and if you're wondering why there's a Gator there, that's my wife's alma mater. So we still represent Gainesville as well in this basement of mine.
If you're not a Gator, you're Gator bait. I hear that's the saying down there. Kevin, thank you so much for joining me today.
Tara, thank you so much.
Mindfulness is key. We've established that on this show, and especially during the COVID-19 pandemic, mindfulness is a hot topic, especially exercise. Earlier in this series, we talked about some workouts that you can do at home, but today I want to talk about something that combines your mind and your body: running. Now, I know what you're thinking. Running. Ew, gross, I hate running. It's hot outside, I don't want to do it. But running is actually a great combination of working your body, working your legs, your arms, everything in your body, and also pushing your mind. Because a lot of times, at least when I run, I get into my head and I say, oh, I can't go any farther, I'm too tired, I'm out of breath. Well, you probably can go farther than you think. So I encourage you to think about it this way, and here are a couple tips. Make sure you set realistic goals for yourself and analyze where you are in terms of your endurance and your ability to run. If you haven't run in a couple of years or done a lot of distance running, then start slow. Set smaller goals for yourself in terms of time or distance. For me, I started running earlier this week, and I set a goal for myself to run for an hour and try to see how far I could get. Now, this was a combination of running and walking, so don't think I ran this entire distance, because I definitely did not. But I ended up going about 4 miles, and I decided, okay, this is my goal for this month, is to try to run as much of this route as possible every single time that I do it. And then hopefully by the end of the month, I can run the entire route and be successful. And also, maybe do it in less than an hour. We'll see. But this route for me is really hard because there's a lot of hills, and it's definitely a big challenge. I had to walk up most of the hills the day that I first started, and I've gotten a little bit better every day since. So I encourage all of you to think about it that way. Don't be afraid to run and walk. It is not a weakness. You are just trying to get better. So every single time, try to just walk a little bit less. Now that can be a couple seconds less, a couple feet less, whatever you want to think about it as. And then as you keep going, you'll get better, you'll train your brain that you can do this, and you'll train your body at the same time. Okay, all you cool cats and kittens, that's all the time we have this week on The Next Big Thing. If you have something big to share, drop me a message or put it in the comments below. Thank you, Kevin Negandhi from SportsCenter on ESPN, for joining me today. Come back next week for more, same time, same place, and when you need the news that pops, I'll be here with The Next Big Thing.